I would just like to say that I am recording this. I am recording this. What we're going to do is we're going to post this to the website for anybody that was unable to. We are going to post this for anybody who was unable to see this. What I would like to do today is talk a little bit about what the reopening plan will look like specific to the high school. More importantly is I want to give people the opportunity to ask questions. What I'm going to ask is, in a minute, I have a very kind of brief PowerPoint that I'll share with everybody. After that, I'll give everybody the opportunity to ask questions by typing it into the chat. And I'm asking that you type it into the chat because if there are questions I miss, or if we run out of time because we only have an hour, I will certainly grab the questions that we missed. I'll create a document and I'll share it out with all the parents, so everybody gets the same information. And again, I'm going to throw some information at you, and I don't mean to go quickly, but with an hour, I want to make sure I get through everything for everybody. So I would like to start and just say I appreciate everybody's patience and support. I know this has been an exceptionally long haul since I think it was March 13th, but I do appreciate everybody's patience, support, and help as we kind of navigate this very different and difficult situation. So if you would just bear with me for 1 minute, I'm going to share my screen so that I can just show everybody the PowerPoint. All right, so I hope everybody can see my screen. If everybody could, just to avoid some background, kind of that interference, if everybody could just make sure they're muted, that would be helpful. So to start, and for those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve Serpine. I'm the principal here at the high school. We do have two assistant principals who are not here today, but Jill Hanlon and Brian Charlie are the other two assistant principals. Like I said, I do have, I think, 8 or 9 slides here that I'd like to show everybody just to get a visual. These are also slides that I am going to push out as well. We'll post them. I'll send an email to everybody just so you all have the information. As you know, as a district 3 through 12, where we adopted the hybrid model. So here at the high school, the first thing is our schedule. So schedule is set up really in cohorts. We have the first cohort, which on the schedule is the first. We have cohort A through L, and then M through Z. So the schedule is set up where we have A day, B day, then Wednesday, we call it a JAG day, but it's really our skinny day. So we took our typical Monday schedule and put it on Wednesday. So Monday would be A day, Tuesday B day, Wednesday skinny day, Thursday A day, Friday B day. So what will happen is, depending on your cohort, so if you can see in September, if we look at the first full week, which is the 14th, M through Z is in person on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. A through L is in person Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that will rotate every week. I know this can certainly be confusing, especially for students. So for everybody to be on the same page, what I'm going to do is every week I'll send an email reminder to parents, students, and staff, and just say next week this is going to be what the schedule looks like. This is the cohort that's in Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. This is the cohort that's in Tuesday, Thursdays. I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. But that is the schedule for the month of September. And again, as part of the adoption, of this model, the first 2.5 weeks is really, I don't want to say a trial, but in a lot of ways it is a trial. So we're certainly going to reassess everything in 2.5 weeks. And I know families will have the option on the 21st to decide, I want to go this model, I will go remote, I want to go hybrid. And, hopefully, things will start to change. I mean, I know we all want to get the students back 100%. But that's kind of, we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at that really every week between the administration, the district administration, the school board. But for now, that's what the schedule is going to look like. With that said, I know this is a couple questions that have really come up often, is we do not have any teachers that are just teaching remotely. So if I'm a senior and I'm in a class with Mr. Caplow, whether I'm live in front of him, whether I'm home because it's my cohort stay to be home, or whether I'm fully remote, I will be zooming into Mr. Caplow's class. And I will be able to participate as I would normally if I was in that class. We are also offering all the classes that we typically do. We did not cut any APs, any honors, any FOLs. We are offering everything that we've always done in the past. And like I said, we do not have any teachers that are just teaching remotely. So the schedule, and this information is really important for you in terms of the start and end day. Start of the day and the end of the day have not changed. So we are still 7:52 to 2:17. The only thing that has changed is we put advisory first thing in the morning. So advisory is first thing in the morning, where it is typically after block 1. Part of that rationale was for social distancing purposes, it's going to give us a good place for students to start the day. But also, in my opinion, more importantly, this connection piece is really going to be important. These kids, as you all know, have been out of the building for 6-7 months. And we thought that by starting it in a day, it's a really good point of check-in. Now, again, with that said, I do want to keep reiterating, a lot of this will be fluid because we're certainly, until we see everything happening live, we're certainly going to be reassessing everything really on a daily basis. And again, we want parents to be able to make the best decision for their children on the 21st. And again, this is our JAG day, which is our Monday schedule, which is a skinny day. And again, same thing. The times are all the same. So the start and end day has not changed. Really, the only thing that's changed, again, is advisory is first. With the schedule, and this is something that has been asked a lot. If you're a CTE student, if you go to a program like Impact, you'll be offered bus transportation as you normally are. That has not changed. Salem CTE, they are starting school on the 2nd. So our students were given the option, if they would like to start CTE on the 2nd, we'll have buses available, and they'll be able to start with the Salem students. If they do not want to start on the 2nd, that is, Salem knows that's 100% fine. They won't be penalized. So it's really up to the student. It's up to the families. In terms of Salem CTE, they are not allowing our students to drive there this year. So if the student doesn't take the bus, then the student will have to get dropped off and picked up at Salem. With CTE, Mrs. Lickman and I are going to sit down next week and really come up with a clear, concise in terms of the expectations for CTE, in terms of, for example, if they have CTE on Wednesday, it's a skinny day, so they're going to miss more classes than they normally would. We're gonna look at that and come up with something we can get out to the parents. We certainly aren't going to penalize anybody when they come back from Salem CTE if they're late for class. We don't typically do that. Because I know CTE is big, and we have well over 100 kids that participate in CTE. So again, that's the schedule. The times haven't changed. Really, the one thing that's changed is advisory. Lunches are going to run as they always did. I know the lunches are most likely to be kind of bagged or boxed lunches from the cafeteria to obviously limit the handling of food. our cafeteria, but our lunch schedule, it's all the same. Nothing's changed. So the arrival procedure is a bit different this year because we have to socially distance. So as most of you know, the kids typically come in the building and everybody kind of congregates in the atrium, cafeteria, et cetera. We're working to spread people out a little bit more. So what we're going to have happen is we have kind of meeting areas for students by grade level. And what that is going to look like is students that take a bus in the morning. They're going to enter the building through Spirit entrance, the CAF, as they normally do. So the location that people are going to have, and this is really the important part, the location is freshmen are going to be in the auditorium, sophomores will be in the gym, juniors will be in the CAF, seniors, many of whom have late arrival, will be in the atrium, or in the nice weather will allow them, to kind of hang out outside on the turf field. But that's really in part because of the socially distancing. So we certainly can't have 500 kids hanging out in the atrium. And again, this will also be fluid. Once we see what it actually looks like when the students arrive, I will make any and all necessary adjustments. The next slide is safeguards, which I think, we've all been talking about for a long time. Staff, students, administrators, everybody will be asked to wear a face covering. And a face covering, a mask, is simply something that covers your mouth or your nose. We're not saying you have to wear this type of mask. It's anything that covers your face or your nose. And we'll ask that kind of in the hallways, in the classrooms. One thing we will be doing is next week, when the teachers are here for professional development, we're going to have the conversation about mask breaks. We certainly don't expect or want anybody to have a mask on for 8 straight hours. But we are going to have that conversation about kind of what that break will look like, how we'll schedule it in, but what we will have that option or availability for students. In the building, specifically classrooms, desks are arranged 3 feet apart, edge to edge. And depending on the physical size of the classroom, most classrooms typically hold either 21 or 18 students. Some of the specialty classes, like pottery, ceramics room, it holds less because of the amount of equipment, but the typical classrooms are 21 and 18. And we certainly will have reminders of students in terms of making sure they are socially distancing. We have signage on the walls. We're creating different traffic patterns so the students can socially distance a little bit easier. But we're certainly working to, we want to make sure everybody's safe. But so we're working towards that. In terms of the restrooms, we're going to have 4 students. 4 students will be allowed at a time in the restrooms. That is typically monitored through teacher duties. We have staff outside the bathrooms on their duty period, and they'll be the ones to monitor, making sure that there's only 4 at a time. So parents, for parents that are going to come into the building, and again, we are trying to limit the amount of traffic that comes in and out of this building. We all know this is certainly a busy building. Parents, we ask if you need to dismiss a child, if you would send an email, a note with your child, or so we can have the student dismissed, and we'd ask that you stay in your car. We would just let the student walk out to the car. But if you could do some sort of email or note, something along those lines, it'd be helpful. If you do have to come into the building, we are limiting 2 people at a time in the vestibule. So if you're looking if you need to drop something off for your child that they forgot, there'll be a table in the vestibule. We'll ask you to leave it there, and Miss Brody will take care of making sure that your child gets it. But again, we're really just trying to limit that amount of traffic. Certainly there are times you have to come in, and that's obviously understandable. But the big one is if you have to dismiss your child, if we could do it so the child could just walk out to you, that would be very helpful. The next slide really is really for your information only. we have a lot of contractors, vendors that typically come in and out of the building. And, you know, for me, I want to make sure that you all understand that we take that into consideration. They'll have to be pre-approved before they come in the building. They'll be asked also to wear masks the entire time they're here. They will also be asked to sign in and really explain why they're here. Are they here to deliver science materials? Are they here to deliver PPE supplies? But we really are trying to be streamlined so that we always know who's in the building and why they're here. So that's right. And again, that's really for just kind of the vendors and those folks that are typically in and out. And we just want to make sure we limit that and know that they're in here. And we're really going to try to keep it to essential school and district folks as best we can. I know that questions about if people have tested positive for COVID, if they've been around somebody that they suspect has it. The nurses have been working really, really hard all summer to come up with protocols. They've worked with, you know, the district administration, the board. They've worked with the New Hampshire Department of Public Health. So this, in terms of who should stay home, and again, we've heard this before, but if you have new unexplained symptoms, if you've been in contact with someone who tested positive, who you might think, and if you've traveled outside of New England in the prior 14 days. In terms of if a student tests positive or gets sent to the nurse, but if we know a student that tests positive, the nurse protocol in the building will reach out to the New Hampshire Department of Public Health, and they really kind of will help guide us. Certainly we'll be in contact with the district administration, with the school board. But those are things that the nurses are still kind of working on protocol for. And next week, as we have all the teachers, they're certainly going to be trained in all this, and we'll be able to have more information regarding the specifics for everybody before kids come back. And then just the last slide, sports. We are moving forward to play fall sports. That is our expectation. I will say that the athletic directors throughout the state are still working on schedules. The schedules will most likely be condensed, and they're going to try to keep everybody fairly local. What I mean by that is, excuse me, Windham will be grouped with Londonderry, Pinkerton, Salem, Londonderry, Pinkerton, Salem, and Timberlane. All local to us. There won't be a ton of bus travel, but those would be the schools with whom we'd be competing. So again, the schedule will be a little bit condensed, but we are moving forward to play. Like I said, the ADs are working on the logistics, and once that gets finalized, we'll get everything out to coaches, athletes, and families. The same goes for our clubs and extracurriculars. We are, again, moving forward, and we're going to offer those to our students. You know, we certainly, under these conditions, we're certainly doing everything we can to keep it as normal as possible while also being safety conscious. But we will have our club fair in September. We will have extracurricular activities. I will say some teachers may opt to do some things remotely if they're advisors, but that's information that I will have kind of once we square away after the club fair and those sorts of things. For example, we are moving forward and looking to have some type of fall theater production. I know that Ms. Veyer has been working with those folks to make sure that we can do something with our students. So again, we are, you know, working really hard to bring as much normalcy as we can during this time. So again, I know I just threw a ton at people. I'm going to turn off my screen, and I'm going to let people ask questions. If you could bear with me, I usually have somebody here going through this for me. So I'm gonna go through these questions. Like I said, I'll go through as many as I can. For those that I don't get to, I'll pull the questions. I'll answer them with my team. We'll send them out to the parents along with the PowerPoint that you just saw, and I will. I'm gonna post this link on the website as well. So I'll start with the first question. If students have block 1 study and have opted to come in later, will they be able to check in to advisory via Zoom? Yes. We will, in fact, be encouraging students to check in in advisory via Zoom if they're not physically in the building. However, we're also not going to penalize students for not doing that. But yes, students can 100% check into advisory via Zoom. And again, I think now more than ever, it's going to be that piece of our curriculum is even more important because students really going to have that connection with teachers. So with CTE, and that's a great question, and it's part of the reason the question just asked, since A days on Mondays and Thursday, because of the schedule, does that mean that a CTE student will go to Salem on Mondays and Thursdays if he goes Tuesdays, Thursdays? So this is part of the conversation I'm going to have with Ms. Lickman. CTE the Salem folks have been absolutely fantastic to work with. But it's complicated on our end. So we're actually still trying to iron out some of the fine details. I'm meeting with Julie Lickman on Monday. So we're going to try to iron some of this out. And we're going to get that information out to all the families and students that it affects. So I do apologize. I don't have exact answers to that. Like I said, we've been in daily conversation with the folks over in Salem. Yes, we have bus. So for the high schools that start next week, we do have bus availability, as we always did for those CTE students. So that I got confirmation of that today. So we're good to go with that. ROTC kids that go to Salem, same thing. That bus is squared away as it always is, and it'll be ready to go on the 2nd for those students that choose to start in Salem on the 2nd. Yes, the remote learning option, we are now, there was approval for snow days to be able to do remotely. So that'll take care of snow days. I will say this, I'm not sure if it's 1 for 1, but we have gotten we have gotten conversation that instead of having a snow day, we'll be able to do remote. I apologize, I can't stop coughing. In the cafeteria at lunch, in the actual cafeteria, so this doesn't include the patio, and we also let students eat kind of outside the doors that go into the cafeteria. Inside the cafeteria, we have approximately 170 seats for students. We changed the setup a little bit. We took out the cafeteria tables and we put in individual student desks 3 feet apart. So students are still able to socialize, but they will be sitting at a table by themselves. Thank you. With that said, we're still allowing students nice weather to eat on the patio. We have a lot of students that have typically ate, for example, in the band room. I am still going to allow that as well. I did have a conversation with directors to make sure that when they talk to their staff that they are still vigilant in terms of keeping the area clean. So with students that are fully remote, we are not, for FERPA reasons, we cannot record live Zoom sessions. However, teachers can pre-record themselves in the lesson and push those out to students. So that is an option teachers have. I know that next week, one of the main focuses of our professional development is teachers really getting together to kind of create what it's going to look like, because they'll have live students in front of them. They'll have remote students who are in every other day, so to speak, and they'll have full remote students. So they're really going to spend a lot of time looking at kind of creating how that's going to look to ensure that all students receive the same instruction, have the same opportunities in terms of extra help, feedback, and things of those nature. And also, when students are at home remotely, they'll be able to Zoom in, they'll be able to participate in the class, We have cameras. We bought specific cameras for all the classrooms, so teachers can use those. So we are working towards, getting the teachers together to really look at that and make sure that everything um, it goes as smoothly as we can. And on top of that, they will also be looking at assessments. So tests and quizzes, we certainly want to make sure everything's fair and equitable. But that assessment piece is also something that's going to be discussed in great detail next week, so that when students come back, teachers can have that conversation with them and what that's going to look like. So if you have to stay home, really for mild symptoms, or I'll even say if you have to stay home because you're sick, just a typical cold or something, we certainly encourage students to Zoom in from home, whether it's their remote day or not. Um, I'm meeting with my leadership team because my opinion is if I'm homesick and I Zoom into all my classes, it should not count as an absence. So I'm going to have a conversation with my folks so we can come up with a little bit of a protocol for that. But yes, we highly encourage everybody to Zoom in if they're unable to be in school. So if students have a sport or an activity at the end of the day, but they have, last block of, they have a study last block, they are able to stay. They're able to stay in the building. We're going to create some space where they can come in, the media center. Most likely will be that space where they can socially distance and stay here as they always would. They certainly have that option to go home if they prefer. But yes, if they want, they would be able to. So if they don't have a car, nobody can pick them up. Yes, they will be able to stay in the building. In terms of the COVID cases, that's something that I know the nurses are still working on, and part of that is kind of notification, and is this something we get out to parents? Um, I don't have that answer yet, but I will find out for you. I know, again, the nurses have been meeting with the state folks um, bi-weekly pretty much. And I know they're still working on some of this information. So I apologize, I don't have that answer right now, but I will get it for you. I'm not sure I understand. Can Salem CTE students attend in person every day? If you mean in person at Windham High, unfortunately, no. We can't do that. But what I will say is, especially once the kids come back, we're going to look at student enrollment by class daily, um, because again, with this 2.5 weeks until parents have to choose, we're going to look at all these things every day because we want parents to be able to make the best decision that they can for their children. Um, right now, unfortunately, I would have to say no to that, based on numbers, but it is certainly something that we'll be looking at. The next question also, when will we decide to go 5 full days in school? I'm not sure, but again, in our conversations with the district and the school board, that's really something we're going to talk about weekly. We're gonna look at, the COVID situation. We're going to look at enrollment. We're going to look at how all that's going really on a weekly basis, report out, and hopefully, start looking at that to make a decision one way or the other. I can't say when we'd be back full time. I know we're all hoping that it's certainly sooner rather than later. But again, that's something that with the district and the board that we're going to be looking at on a fairly regular basis. We're asking parents to take temperatures every day. Um, we are looking to students that come back and forth. So, for example, a CTE student, we are looking to check their temperatures and when they return, when they leave and/or return. But again, the nurses are looking at that process. to decide if we are going to temperature every day. As of now, the answer is no. We're asking not only families but also staff to kind of do that before they come to school. But certainly people that come and go, we're looking at a process for that. So again, a great question. So students that are freshmen who are, I'm sure, nervous in general. And by the way, the freshman class was absolutely fantastic at our orientation. But students who have their first day of remote, teachers next week, really on Monday, are going to have some time together so that they'll be able to get things out. They'll be able to get information. They'll be able to get that information out to all the students before school starts, so that if I'm at home on the first day of school, I know exactly what to do and I can zoom into my classes on that first day. So if a student is out sick with COVID-related symptoms, um, there are a lot of scenarios that we're looking at. It depends on if they're out because they were in contact with someone who tested positive, someone they think was tested positive, if because they were out of New England. We have scenarios where, depending, they may have to be out from an amount of time or provide a negative test. So again, there are a bunch of different scenarios that the nurses are looking at now. And really, a lot of this is going to come down to, it's situational. The nurses reaching out to the New Hampshire Department of Public Health. But again, these are all things that are still being discussed kind of on the health industry side of this. Yes, if for some reason your student doesn't have an email address, or if you haven't been getting emails, reach out to me and/or Patricia Merrill in the main office. If you send me an email, I'll make sure it's taken care of before school starts. And that really goes for everything. Laptops, any of those type issues, let me know so we can work on them and get it all squared away before we start on the 9th. We do not have a supply list at the high school. Typically, what will happen? Say you're new to the building, you'll come in with your laptop, and then teachers will kind of let you know what you should have. But we don't usually put out a supply list typically. So this is a great question. So this came up in the last session as well. If you have a first period study and/or late arrival, are you still expected to sign into advisory? We are going to strongly recommend that students do. However, again, nobody's going to be penalized. Because this is very new for advisory, being it right at the start of the day, we really want to take the 2.5 weeks and really look to see how it looks, see how it's working out. So there'll be no penalty if they don't. We do encourage them to do so. Again, with everything that's gone on, we want students to feel comfortable with at least one adult in the building. But yes, they can, and we recommend them to sign in, but they are not, they won't be penalized if they don't. Yep, students. So with their phys ed classes, students will still have the opportunity to change. They can certainly, they can wear the clothes they're going to wear for that class in the building all day. They don't have to change. They'll have the opportunities to change. I know the HP department and our athletic director worked on a process. We'll certainly limit the amount of students at a time in the locker room, but they will have the opportunity to change. We are going to ask that they don't that they bring their clothes in some sort of other bag. We're gonna have the lockers kind of off limits, as it's just another area to clean, and that could potentially cause issues. But yes, students will be able to change for phys ed, but they don't have to. So for CTE students, we have buses, as we always have. So even starting on the 2nd, we'll have buses here at the high school for students that want to go to CTE. But the transportation for CTE for programs like Impact have not changed at all. There'll be buses here for all those students that need to take a bus to CTE. All our curriculum is online. Um, It is online. It's on the website. And I know our teachers utilize Unified Classroom, which is going to become even more important this year with the remote. So yes, that will be the case. And again, especially with Unified Classroom, that's a big point of emphasis next week. I do not believe students are going to be required to show their faces. They may at first when they log in for attendance, and then they could shut the video off. But that is something that I will look into, and I'll get an answer to that question for everybody next week. I appreciate that question, and I'll get a definite answer for you next week. I think if you're going to dismiss your child early from school, the best person to email would be Cindy Brody, and I can send that email out to everybody next week so they have it. But she's the woman in the reception area when you first walk into the main office, and she's the one that would handle all dismissals. If you're having MacBook issues, the technology department has requested that everybody put a ticket in, and you can get a ticket through it's IT help desk, I believe. It's a drop-down link on the high school webpage. But if you put a ticket in and it's still it's taking a long time, please feel free to email me, and I can help everybody work through it. Laptops have not been distributed. Unless you're a freshman, they got laptops at orientation. We're distributing laptops next week. The first is juniors and seniors. The first is, I believe, Tuesday. And that it's 9 to 11 and then 12 to 2. Wednesday is sophomores. That's 9 to 11. And then Thursday is going to be a makeup day for anybody who couldn't make the other times, or if a freshman missed orientation. That'll also be from 9 to 11. If none of those times work, feel free to shoot me an email, and we'll make an alternative pickup day for you. So students will be, apologize, teachers will be sending Zoom invitations for their classes. We have some additional training on this next week because we want teachers to really be able to send a standing Zoom invitation so that kids aren't getting invitation emails, multiple invitations every day. But yes, they'll be provided all that. So they'll just have to log into the class. So sports bags, if you're a member of a team, so say you play football, there's still going to be access to the locker rooms. Again, in terms of the amount of kids in there at one time, it'll be limited, but they will still have the option of using their locker rooms as they typically do. I do want to say, when we compete against another high school, for example, if we go and our soccer team plays at Londonderry, kids are going to have to get on the bus in their uniforms. High schools are not going to allow visiting teams in the locker rooms. So it'll kind of be a dress, get on the bus, get off the bus and play. But for our students on a daily basis between school and practice, they will have access to the athletic locker rooms. So in terms of the expectation for teachers and grading, it's a great question. It's a conversation we constantly have. Um, and it's really the expectation is they do it on a timely basis. And I know that in the spring, it was difficult, and it was also it was new to everybody. And I know everybody was super flexible, staff, students, and parents. But the expectation is they do it on a timely basis. And again, with our unified classroom training that we're going to have next week, that's going to be a big point of emphasis. Is we certainly don't want parents to have to wait, an exorbitant amount of time for grades to be updated, et cetera. We also don't expect teachers to have it done, immediately, but we do expect it to be timely, and that's going to be it's going to be, like I said, a point of conversation next week. So right now, the numbers in the two cohorts, they're actually fairly even. Um, our overall enrollment is approximately 1,025. So our cohorts are they're fairly even. But again, as we go through, especially the next 2.5 weeks, that is something that we will be keeping a very close eye on, because we certainly don't want anything to be overly lopsided. Right now, in terms of the weight room, and this is a big point, because not only is it important for students to have access to weight room, but at the same time, it's part of the HP curriculum. Right now, it's still closed. We're working with facilities, the athletic director, the HP department, the coaches, to come up with, we have to come up with um, very strict guidelines in terms of that, because it's very difficult to socially distance if you're in a weight room and somebody's spotting you, or something of that nature. But we are looking at that and working on that to see if we can get a protocol and procedure to let kids get back in there. The information that students need if they're on remote days will be in unified classroom. And again, in terms of if I'm at home as part of my cohort, or if I'm a fully remote student, teachers are looking to set up kind of that standing invitation, so they can, star it in their email, or however they do it, so they can always just go to it. Um, but unified classroom is really our centralized area for any and all information for students. In terms of HP, and I know, of all the classes, HP is certainly different if we're remote. But in terms of HP in the weight room, um, HP teachers really have been working all summer with our athletic director to kind of come up with those procedures. We should have a lot of pretty specific information next week. Um, One of the great things about teachers having these 5 days is that we can really bring them together and really do a significant amount of planning. So we should have more specifics about that pretty soon. I unfortunately can't speak about winter sports. I know athletic directors have been talking about that. I think they're looking to see what happens kind of with as we go through the fall season. I do know that really the two sports that come up when ADs talk about winter is wrestling and basketball. Um, that's something that they're going to be in ongoing conversations for throughout the fall. Quizzes and tests. Quizzes and tests will be administered, really both. If you're a full remote student, you're still going to be taking tests and quizzes. Again, the assessment piece is critical. It's critical. We need to make sure it's fair and equitable. Um, Again, that's a huge conversation piece with the directors and their departments next week. But we're going to come up with a protocol for that, because again, I know everybody's wants it to be fair and equitable. Um, but that's another protocol we'll be discussing next week. Yes, you can submit a ticket. If you can't get into your MacBook, you would have to use another device and just go to the Windham High School webpage. It would be there. If you don't have that ability, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll help you take care of it. Seniors that were planning on being a TA, really that'll be a class by class determination, depending on the numbers that are in the class. Certainly, if there are numbers that allow it, we'll do it. But we need to look at the numbers in the classes, to make sure that we're not um, in excess of our max occupancy. Yeah, students are certainly able to have a backpack. They're certainly able to have a backpack if they choose. I mean, we don't actually have a lot of, not counting the athletic and HB lockers. We don't have a lot of lockers in the building. We do have some, but yes, students would certainly be allowed to bring a backpack. So I don't have. I think I got through everything. Um, if I missed, yes, yes. If seniors are unable to be a TA, will they have the option of taking another class? Yeah, we would certainly look at schedules. To see what our options were with that, but we wouldn't just take something away and not backfill it. Ooh, I'm getting some more. I'm sorry. In terms of students bringing their own hand sanitizer, students have always been able to do that. We ask they don't share. Um, but there will be hand sanitizer stations in every classroom in the building. There will also be hand sanitizer stations throughout some of the common areas in the building. Again, technology pickup for laptops is next week. It is Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday for juniors and seniors, 9 to 11 and 12 to 2. Wednesday, sophomores, 9 to 11. Thursday, it is for anybody who couldn't make those dates from 9 to 11. If you can't make any of those times, just feel free to reach out to me and we'll schedule something. Yes, this Zoom call, I recorded it, and we are also going to, I'll share out the PowerPoint slides, and we are going to look um, to put this on the school website so people can access it. So hopefully we'll be able to get that done on Monday. If anybody has schedule changes that need to be made, I would reach out to your counselor and/or Mrs. Lickman. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time out on this Friday. If I missed anything, or if you have other questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be happy to work you through whatever question you may have. But again, I appreciate everything. I certainly appreciate your patience, your support. I know it's been a long road for everybody. We are absolutely excited to have everybody back, even if it's in a hybrid model. We're looking forward to seeing the kids and the staff. It's been pretty lonely around here for a while. So again, I hope you all have a great weekend. If there's anything else comes up, please don't be afraid to reach out to me, the assistant principals, or any of us in the building. Thanks very much, and we'll see you soon. So how do I?